When we talk about TV shows that have taken a significant downturn, The Fairly OddParents is an example that quickly comes to mind. Other shows have also had their bad phases, but occasionally they would show that spark that made people like them in the first place. However, with The Fairly OddParents, after the Channel Chasers movie, and especially with the arrival of Poof, the series only made poor decisions. And now, this year, a new series was released that continues the original story, with new characters and a new protagonist, but it's also generating a lot of controversy. So get comfortable to understand the entire story of Fairly OddParents: A New Wish.
Hazel moved to the city, feeling all alone.
The episode starts with Hazel removing some stones from boxes in her room. This might seem strange, but it's her hobby, so let's not judge. Hazel had recently moved, and she was trying to stay positive, thinking that her new life in another city shouldn't be a bad thing. But unfortunately, being away from her brother made her sad. Hazel's brother stayed in their old city because he was attending college and couldn't move with Hazel and her parents. Her brother is very important to her, perhaps even more than her own father. A little later, Hazel hears the doorbell ring and runs, thinking that her brother has arrived to visit. She rushes to the door, but when she opens it, she finds Cosmo and Wanda, who are bringing gifts for Hazel's family, who are now their new neighbors. Cosmo and Wanda enter the house and plop down on the couch. They chat a bit about life, and Hazel's mother says she is a therapist and writer. She gives Cosmo a book as a gift, which he will never read, but no one needs to know that. Cosmo and Wanda also share a bit about their lives, saying they are just a retired couple trying to enjoy life away from the big city. While talking, Wanda, a bit clumsy, breaks the shelf in the house, but she uses magic to fix it before the parents notice. Little Hazel noticed this strange situation and tries to tell her mother what just happened, but neither her mother nor her father takes her seriously. After all, she's just a child. Hazel's father talks a bit about his job. He's a scientist who researches supernatural phenomena, and when Cosmo and Wanda hear this, they get extremely nervous. So, fearing they might get caught, Cosmo and Wanda quickly leave. Hazel's mother is confused about why they left so suddenly, and Hazel's father explains that his work can sometimes scare people, which is why he loves his job. Once outside, Cosmo asks Wanda if there's any chance that Hazel's father is after them, but Wanda reassures him, saying probably not since they aren't drawing any attention. To avoid any potential problems, Wanda suggests they just act like a normal couple. Then they leave, dragging their heads on the ground, which is already not normal. The next day, Hazel arrives for her first day at her new school. She introduces herself to her class and shares a few things about herself, like her hobby of collecting stones and how her older brother is amazing. Unfortunately, the introduction didn't go over well, and a boy with dark sunglasses starts making fun of her because of her somewhat strange hobby. At breakfast, Hazel sits alone, but before she can have some peace, the same boy comes over to bother her again. Their conversation isn't important, so I won't explain much. Just to give some context, this boy is a spoiled rich kid named Dimmadelphia, who is the grandson of Doug Dimmadelphia, the very wealthy man from the original show. Dev brags a little, as any good heir does, and then starts introducing Hazel to the people at school. The first one introduced is Trev, a boy with green hair who thinks he's a bad boy, but looks more like an emo-y girl. We also meet Win, who is just a stalker with stylish purple hair. Bev, a soccer player who doesn't call it football. Yasmin, a beautiful singer for the deaf because she sings terribly. Kevin, the beloved long-haired guy who does ads for a beverage company. And finally, Fred, a redhead who has a YouTube ASMR channel. I can say that he's my favorite. The guy is creating content at school, so he deserves respect. After introducing everyone, Dev leaves while teasing Hazel because she was sitting on a bench with fresh paint. After a long day at school, Hazel goes home, angry about her first day because of everything that happened. At her building's entrance, she finds Cosmo and Wanda using magic to fill her mailbox with coupons. Once inside, Hazel's mother asks about her first day of school. Hazel lies and tells her mom that everything went well. Hazel's mom receives a call from Anthony, Hazel's brother, informing her that he can't visit because his flight was canceled due to a storm. Hazel, feeling a mix of anger and sadness, goes to her room. She starts packing her suitcase because she's now determined to go after her brother. She passes by the building's entrance again and sees Cosmo and Wanda, who are now stuffing more discount coupons into the mailbox. She tries to sneak out without being noticed, but Cosmo and Wanda spot her and ask what she's doing alone with a suitcase. Hazel tries to make something up and says she's ready to go on her first space trip. At that moment, Cosmo has nostalgic thoughts about all his special missions, with a little boy who marked the childhood of many watching this video. Wanda immediately realized she was lying and told Hazel to tell the truth. Hazel begins to recount all the bad things happening in her life. Cosmo and Wanda start to realize that she needs them, and while they're lost in thought about this, Hazel runs and tries to catch a bus to the airport. She finds a bus and runs into none other than Timmy Turner. Well, we can't say for sure if it's Timmy, as some internet theories suggest that Timmy will only appear later, but that's just a theory. Hazel can't catch the bus because it was actually just a set for the new Crimson Chin movie. Feeling sad again, Hazel heads back home, where Cosmo and Wanda are waiting for her. In desperation, Hazel wishes she had wings to fly on her own. She wishes so strongly that Cosmo and Wanda's powers start to activate, and finally, but due to not using their powers for years, the magic collapsed, and they turned Hazel into a fly. When she realizes what her body looks like now, she panics and starts screaming a lot. Cosmo and Wanda then reveal to Hazel that they are fairies, and they live in the human world to grant the wishes of unhappy children who need their powers. And they've been doing this job for more than 10,000 years, fulfilling wishes in various periods of history. They start to cry in a nostalgic fit for the old days, and while they're distracted, Hazel escapes again, but this time she flies off to find her brother. A few meters later, Hazel finds a bag of potato chips, which is one of her favorite foods, and stops to eat. Seeing this, Cosmo, using all his IQ, comes up with the idea of making a trail of potato chips leading to Hazel's house. Incredibly, it worked. Hazel is captured in her house because she couldn't walk anymore after eating so much. Wanda then tries to distract the girl's parents, so Cosmo can turn Hazel back into a human. Once again, things don't go as planned because when Cosmo opens the jar, Hazel flies out, trying to go after her brother again. Cosmo, with his infinite genius, starts trying to hit Hazel with his magic to turn her into a human. Hazel, trying to escape, ends up falling into the carnivorous plant that was one of the gifts Cosmo and Wanda gave Hazel's parents at the beginning of the episode. Cosmo starts crying, thinking Hazel is going to meet her end. Inside the plant's mouth, Hazel realizes it closes its mouth rather slowly, but she's stuck on a surface with strange moss used to trap insects. Hazel sees several dead insects beside her and one ant still alive. Hazel and the ant talk for a bit, and the ant introduces itself as Tony. Hazel asks what he was doing inside this plant. Tony says he was doing his job, which is finding food to bring back home because it's necessary to feed his family. Moved by the ant's words, Hazel starts feeling sentimental, and Tony explains that even though he loves his family very much, he also has his own life, and being away from them makes him stronger to build his future. After this reflection, Hazel manages to escape with Tony, flying out of the plant's mouth. Cosmo captures her and grants Hazel's wish to become human again, and everything returns to normal as before. Sometime later, Hazel visits Cosmo and Wanda, and when she enters their house, she's enchanted by the incredible view of the fairy world. Cosmo tells Hazel that the last time they were in the human world acting as fairy godparents, they ended up spending 7 years inside a fish tank disguised as fish. Based on this information, we reach two conclusions. The first is that Timmy was the last child that Cosmo and Wanda served as fairy godparents, and that they left Timmy right after he turned 17. Cosmo asks Hazel if she wants to have fairy godparents so they can retire as soon as possible. As expected, she immediately agrees. From that moment on, Hazel has Cosmo and Wanda as her fairy godparents. On another day, Wanda and Cosmo, along with Hazel, are in space playing Save the Princess. Wanda is transformed into an evil seahorse, and Hazel charges at her as the night heroine. After defeating the evil seahorse, Princess Cosma gives Hazel a hug. This game is actually a celebration of Hazel's 100th wish since she got her fairy godparents. And the funniest part is that only one episode has passed, and she's already made 100 wishes. Imagine by the time she turns 17. Hazel wishes to return home, and when they return, from the ceiling of her room falls none other than the legendary Jorgen von Strangle, the strongest fairy in the universe. Hazel greets him, and Wanda is panicking because if Jorgen is there, it means they've done something wrong. Jorgen, irritated, tells Cosmo and Wanda that they were supposed to be retired, but instead, they chose their own child. He continues, saying that Hazel was supposed to have another fairy godparent, And when Hazel is shocked by this information, the fairy godparent who was supposed to be assigned, Cookie, appears. Jorgen says that Cookie is the most efficient fairy he has, and she can grant any wish in the blink of an eye. Irritated, he tells Hazel that if she wants to stay with Cosmo and Wanda, she must prove that they can work together. He tells Hazel to make a wish, but when Hazel starts to wish, she becomes very anxious and can't say anything. Cosmo and Wanda's wands release a foul-smelling green smoke, representing the wish that almost went wrong. The chief fairy orders Cosmo, Wanda, and Hazel to go to Fairy World, and if Cosmo and Wanda can't fulfill 3 of Hazel's wishes, they will be replaced by Cookie. In Fairy World, they go straight to the DMV, Department of Magical Violations. The chief fairy, furious, teleports them to the DMV and starts the tests, removing Cosmo's wings and capturing him, telling Hazel to make a wish to save his life. He throws Cosmo up to the top of a tower, and a clock counting 22 seconds starts ticking. Cosmo is holding on tightly, but Cookie appears at the top of the tower and uses a feather to try to make him fall. When Cosmo begins to fall, Hazel wishes for him to have a parachute, which apparently works. However, due to her anxiety and feeling pressured, she changes the wish, asking for a trampoline instead. Cosmo starts falling faster when his parachute is replaced, and, desperate, he yells for Hazel to make another wish. She then wishes for a mattress, saving Cosmo from falling onto the rocks. The fairy chief, annoyed, says that he told her to make only one wish, and Hazel made several of them, and that Wanda also failed to grant the wish before Cosmo started falling. The next test for Hazel is to make everyone at a party dance. Hazel is unsure whether to ask for a DJ or a robot DJ. A DJ who plays mumble rap or Beethoven. The wish is granted and a robot DJ is summoned, but it goes crazy, destroying all the balloons at the party, causing her to fail the test again. The fairy chief enters into a dance battle with the robot, while Hazel laments about ruining everything. Wanda advises her not to overthink and always make a wish loud and clear so that it's easier to grant. The last test was a wish to create a means of transportation. Hazel remembers when she used to play with her brother and how ridiculous it would be to wish for that bike, which was a mix of a unicycle and a motorcycle. Hazel can't think of the name, and Cookie steps in, saying she knows what Hazel wants, and makes a car appear. The fairy chief is impressed and says that Cookie is the best fairy and knows what children need. According to the rules, children must always receive everything they wish for. The fairy chief says the tests are now over and that Cosmo and Wanda are retired again, declaring Cookie as Hazel's new fairy godparent. Cookie puts Hazel in the car and flies off. Back home, Cookie is asking Hazel to wish for something, and even before she can speak, Cookie creates a doll and many other things that Hazel wasn't wishing for. Hazel then gets an idea and starts making a wish in a confusing way, causing confusion with Cookie's wand. The fairy chief appears, furious, and gives Cookie a stern lecture. Hazel tells the chief that even though Cosmo and Wanda failed, she still got what she wanted, while her new godparent does what she wants, not what Hazel asks for. So she wishes for Cosmo and Wanda to be her fairy godparents. Cosmo and Wanda appear and give Hazel a hug. Cookie, irritated, says she can't do that, but is interrupted by the chief, who says she can because according to the rules, children must have what they wish for. Hazel then wishes for the bike she couldn't remember the name of and goes off to have fun with her fairy godparents. On another day, Hazel wakes up and calls Cosmo and Wanda to wish them a good morning. Wanda, noticing that she woke up in a good mood, asks what happened and if she saw the message that Dev has transferred to another school. Hazel says it's for the best and that she's happy because her friend Jasmine is meeting her for the first time after school, and this is the beginning of their eternal friendship. Wanda asks what the plans are for today, and Hazel says they're going to watch a big horror movie franchise. One of the movies is about a doll possessed by the soul of an evil Victorian boy. She mentions that she's watched this movie several times with her brother Anthony, and now she'll have someone else to watch it with. Cosmo, on a less flamboyant day, says that for him, a good movie would be a romance with lots of drama or something of the sort. At school, she shares her idea with her friend, but Jasmine says she hates horror movies and there's no way she'll watch that stuff. Cosmo and Wanda tell her they're sorry and that she'll find a solution. Hazel, using all the neurons she has, wishes for Jasmine to no longer be afraid. After the wish is granted, Hazel looks down the hallway outside her classroom and sees another Jasmine walking by, which should be impossible since the girl is right right behind her. Hazel asks to use the bathroom and quickly finds the other Jasmine. Before she can say anything, the girl transforms into a giant spider and starts chasing Hazel. What actually happened is that all of Jasmine's fears became real when the wish was granted. Basically, Jasmine is no longer afraid because her fears are no longer in her head. Hazel wishes for Jasmine to be afraid again, but after the wish, nothing happens. Realizing this, she wishes for the fears to disappear, but they still remain. The personifications of fear tell her that it's useless to make Jasmine afraid again. The only way to conquer fears in the real world is by facing them. While everyone else is in class, Hazel is trying to confront the fears. After getting caught in the spider's web, she asks Wanda for advice on why the fears haven't disappeared even though she's facing them. Wanda says that according to the fairy books, the fears aren't hers, so only Jasmine can confront them. Hazel now has to figure out a way to get Jasmine to face her fears without realizing it's magic. During recess, she talks to Jasmine and tries to encourage her by saying she doesn't think she's as scared as she claims to be. She goes on to say that if she were really that scared, she wouldn't have approached her in the first place, especially since no one else did. By doing this, she convinces Jasmine to face her fears, starting with her fear of heights, then her fear of clowns and spiders. And when she's about to conquer her last fear, which is of cheese, Jasmine starts getting possessed by fear. Hazel questions the entity, which says it's tired of these childish games and won't allow a child to diminish its power. Fear tells Hazel that it's pointless to convince Jasmine to lose her fears if, while doing so, she's also developing new ones. Fear then starts taunting her, saying that she's afraid people won't like her, which is why she keeps repeating things from her past, like watching the same movies, and so on. Hearing this, Hazel finds courage and declares that she's no longer afraid and will do new things with her new friend, thus weakening and defeating the fear. After returning to normal, Jasmine tells Hazel that if she wants, she can try watching the horror movie. Hazel disagrees and says that today, the best thing is to watch something else and do new things together. One morning, Hazel is walking with her friend in the school hallways when they come across some students putting papers into a voting box. The boy explains that today is the day for the superlative votes, and for those who don't understand, it's basically a vote on who is better than whom in certain things, like who has the best smile, who is most likely to excel in sports, etc. Jasmine, excited, says it's a very important event and that she's won the musical category every year since kindergarten. Hazel is completely shocked that people can know what others think through this. When her friend tries to explain further, he realizes she's no longer there. Hazel is in the bathroom talking to Cosmo and Wanda, saying she won't wait for this list to come out. She's worried because, being new at the school, her classmates don't know much about her, so they might not know enough to evaluate her abilities. Cosmo then asks if she'd like everyone to know about her life as they do about a famous person. Hazel agrees, and when Cosmo and Wanda are about to grant the wish, a clock tower rises from the ground. An old man with a scythe comes out and says that this wish involves time and is therefore subject to his rules. The old man grants Hazel's wish and gives her a clock that's counting down time. The fame will only fade after the clock completes its cycle. Back at school, all the students are distracted in class, and Hazel walks in, immediately catching everyone's attention. When she talks to her friend Jasmine, Jasmine practically freaks out and says she can't believe Hazel knows her name because she's her #1 fan and runs her fan club. Hazel then signs an autograph on Jasmine's shirt, and Mr. Ballpoint nearly faints when he sees she chose his pen to sign with. At another moment, taking advantage of her fame at the snack bar, Hazel hears an angry voice calling her name. Hazel realizes it's the principal and doesn't understand why she's so upset with her. She asks Wanda, who says it's normal because with fame, along with fans, haters are also part of the journey. The furious principal sarcastically asks Hazel if she's some kind of celebrity to cause such a commotion at school. When Hazel agrees, the principal says it's not appropriate for students to study amidst a celebrity. She warns Hazel that if her fame prevents students from doing their schoolwork, she'll request Hazel's transfer to a child actor school in Hollywood. Hazel begs not to be transferred, and the principal disdainfully says she better behave, or she'll start preparing the transfer papers. Hazel runs to the bathroom again and wishes the timekeeper were there once more. The timekeeper appears, and Hazel asks him to end her 15 minutes of fame. He tells her that the fame won't end until all the sand in the hourglass runs out, and it seems she has 22 hours left. Suddenly, a girl named Nick of Time shows up. Nick tries to find a solution by changing Hazel's time zone to New York's to save her. Nick says that if Hazel acts like a true New Yorker, her clock should reset by lunchtime. Hazel is confused because she doesn't know how to act like a New Yorker, but Cosmo and Wanda say they've lived there and know how to help. They start by changing Hazel's clothes to typical New Yorker attire. Hazel then begins acting like a true New Yorker, eating questionable street food and doing other trivial things, like randomly breaking into a musical. Suddenly, her clock expires and her fame ends. Hazel goes to look at the superlative wall to see what she might have won. When she realizes, she sees her photo on the poster for Girl Ahead of Her Time, implying that Hazel always has good and innovative ideas that no one else thought of before. On another night, Hazel is watching a crime show on TV with her dad. After the show ends, Hazel starts looking for other DVDs to watch, but her dad regrets that he can't keep watching now because he needs to recharge his ghost hunting equipment. Hazel pleads, but it's no use. Her dad promises that they will watch together again next week. Cosmo then suggests fast-forwarding time, but Hazel refuses after her last experience with the Time Lord. Excited, Hazel decides to go out and find a mystery to solve since she can't watch TV with her dad anymore. Hazel and her godparents see a man delivering a package, and after he leaves, they start investigating. During the investigation, Hazel finds some strange things, like the family throwing away a bulky carpet. Hazel returns home and starts creating some theories connecting the facts she was investigating. Suddenly, Hazel's mom enters the room and tells her they're going to have dinner with the new family that moved in. Hazel becomes suspicious because it's the same family she was investigating. Hazel and her family arrive at the suspect's house, and they quickly invite them inside. The suspect father gives Hazel's dad a gift, but Hazel finds it strange and jumps in front of the box, stopping her dad from taking it. She excuses herself, saying it's impolite to open a box before dinner. Hazel then goes to the visiting children's room, where she talks with Cosmo and Wanda. She asks to end the wish because she's tired of being a detective, but Wanda sees in the rulebook that she can't wish that, since her wish was to be like the detectives on TV, and none of them used magic to solve their cases. Now determined to solve the case, Hazel goes to find the family's son, whom she saw when the mother was throwing out the carpet. She's sure he's the main suspect. When she enters his room, she realizes there are two twin brothers. They keep repeating that they are preparing for the end of the world. Hazel then runs to the kitchen, where her parents are having dinner with the family. She makes her mom spit out her food and starts asking the family why they're acting so strangely. The family simply says they are doomsday preppers, and everything they throw away is to avoid government issues with the environment. After discovering this, Hazel realizes she solved the mystery and apologizes to the family for all the questions. They say it's okay, it's just paranoia. After that day, Hazel became more aware of her wishes and how they can impact other people's lives too. Hazel and her friends are excited because they will have an important role in the museum. At this moment, we see Dev, who now has Poof as his fairy godparent. He arrives by helicopter with Poof, wanting to make an entrance that surprises everyone. Upon seeing him, Hazel and her godparents become suspicious of him, especially Cosmo. It seems that things are not going well between Dev and Poof, as Dev is a bit annoying with his nonsensical wishes, and Poof becomes nervous when he recognizes his parents. In the museum, the professor talks about a secret society that existed in ancient times. Jasmine scares her classmates by mentioning Bios, a spirit that these settlers worshipped. Hazel adds even more terror by saying that Bios was a strange beast. The professor then explains that Bios was connected to a magical wand and was supposed to obey everything its holder commanded during the night. Dev, wanting to scare everyone, decides to steal the Bios wand. However, Hazel doesn't want the night to be ruined, so she makes the wand reappear. This turns into a back-and-forth struggle, where Hazel returns the wand and Dev takes it again. Determined to go further, Dev brings Bios back to life. The creature emerges from the portal, scaring everyone except Dev, who paid attention in class and knows he can control it with the wand to increase his classmates' fear. Dev orders Bios to bring forth its minions to scare everyone, but the situation gets out of control as the minions attack everyone, including Dev. Desperate, Poof consults the rulebook to see if there's anything about what to do when his godchild provokes a ghost apocalypse, but unfortunately, finds nothing. At that moment, Dev meets with Hazel, and they both discover that the other has fairy godparents. Cosmo and Wanda reunite with their son. Hazel proposes that they work together to stop Bios. As being such a powerful magic, the only way to face it is by joining forces. So, Dev, Hazel, and their godparents unite their magic to return Bios to the portal and save everyone. Cosmo and Wanda excitedly wake up Hazel and grant her one wish after another, as she only needs one more to make her 1 millionth wish. Once this challenge is completed, she will be able to obtain a wish free from any rules. The strange thing is that upon reaching that number, Cosmo and Wanda's wands stop working, so they travel to the magical world to find out what's going on. When they arrive, they discover that everything is submerged in darkness. After walking for a while, they realize that the giant magic wand doesn't work, and then they are confronted by Dev, who confesses to having taken over the magical world with the help of Fup and the anti-fairies. Quickly, Dev chains Hazel and her fairies, determined to take revenge for always being overshadowed by her. Dev reveals that he researched the anti-fairies and discovered they had the same goal, to free themselves from the fairies and rule the magical world. With this, he hopes to finally impress his father and gain the attention he deserves. To achieve this, he replaced the chip with one that, instead of powering the fairies' wands, powers the anti-fairies wand, thus allowing him to have wishes free from rules, something he was tired of not being able to do with Poof. The next step in Dev's plan is to project himself to the entire world to reveal the existence of fairy godparents and how he took over the magical world. This makes his father very proud. Dev then begins phase 3, replacing all fairy godparents with anti-fairies so that no one has to follow the rulebook. He sends Hazel to Earth and locks Cosmo and Wanda with Poof, who is already suffering from the symptoms of not granting wishes. At that moment, anti-Cosmo and anti-Wanda appear and start torturing their counterparts in the magical world. Problems start to arise when, thanks to the anti-fairies, no one can win competitions, and all of them end in ties. Couples are constantly breaking up and getting back together, and pets are coming back from the dead. Faced with this situation, Hazel decides to gather her close friends and confesses that she had fairy godparents, something that doesn't really surprise them because they are aware of all the things they've experienced with her, such as Yasmin's fears manifesting. So, after the revelation that magic exists, they gain the context to connect all the dots. Meanwhile, Dev discovers that despite everything, his father's attitude doesn't change, and he only cares about business, leaving Dev aside once again to chat with Fup and learn about his plans. Noticing his uncertainty, Wanda explains what will happen to Poof if he doesn't grant any wishes. But at that moment, Hazel arrives with all the friends she's made along the way, ready to save Cosmo and Wanda and fix this mess together. They impress the anti-fairies with their skills and manage to enter the castle using the other Hazel as a decoy. Wanda begs Dev to help her son, and while Poof is on the brink, he is happy to see him and reminisces about the moments they spent together, something that annoys Dev because they always had to follow the rules. But Poof assures him that he did it for his good, as he was his first godchild and wanted everything to be perfect. Moved, Dev drops the key as he walks away and reveals where the chip is. Thanks to this, when Hazel arrives, they find it easily and understand that deep down, Dev never wanted to hurt anyone. With everyone's help, they manage to change the chip, but it doesn't work, and Cosmo and Wanda are already starting to be affected by the confetti syndrome. At that moment, Barry arrives in a helicopter and powers the wand with his rocks. Fortunately, Wanda uses her last strength to grant Hazel's wish to return everything to normal. Finally, Jorgen erases everyone's memory, including Dev's, who knows he deserves it, but is glad to have done the right thing in the end. However, when it comes time to erase the memory of Hazel's friends, she uses her wish without rules to ask that they keep their memories, as they also help save the magical world. Jorgen is forced to grant it, and that wraps up the final episode of the season.
Wait. They're closing this thing out on a fart joke? Oh, they better give us a season 2!